So today's session is about a review of literature. So here again, I want to insist saying that we are not going to look at how we will be doing review of literature, how we will take a research article, how we will read, how we will comprehend it. So that is not the purpose of this session, because as I told you, many of you would have gone through the research methodology as a procedure, and you are all aware of the procedure. So that is what my assumption is. So with that assumption, many of us, we just blindly do the methodology. We don't understand why we should do a particular exercise or a procedure, or how should we do, or even if we are taught that you need to do it like this, we don't ask question why I should do like that, why I'm doing like this every time. So we don't pose those questions. So that is why we don't seriously do the research process many times. So the objective of learning the research methodology is to even understand why we need to do in certain way. So we need to ask ourselves the question, even if we are asked to follow certain procedure in research, why am I asked to do like this? And answer for that is again searching. So every time, whatever we do, that is why I used to tell some of my scholars that the best way to learn research is to research. So researching on research is one of the ways, because the research is like a ocean. So my blog, when I write, I call it as a world of research, which is like a ocean. And whatever we learn through any kind of a course will be just a drop of that ocean. We may not learn everything. So therefore, learning by doing research, even on the methodology, is the best way of learning. So why I need to do a review of literature? How should I do a review of literature? What are the different methods of doing a review of literature? So I can do a research on that and come out. So that is what PhD is called as a highest degree, because after that you don't require to go through any college and sit for a class and learn further, because by learning research methodology, by doing your PhD, you will be able to learn any new subject. You know how to learn. So that is why we call it as a highest degree. So the purpose, how to do that, that is embedded into the philosophy, and not with the procedure. Understanding the philosophy is what is going to help us to do in certain ways. So as I told you, we are not going to deal with the procedure. Rather, we are going to discuss about the philosophy of literature review. And most of the philosophy falls into these two keywords, ontology and epistemology. So epistemology, I think we have seen what is epistemology in our first session. And I was also talking to you about ontology, but ontology, not exactly into ontology, but we were discussing about the metaphysics. So the philosophy of review of literature, or the philosophy that guides the review of literature, which will tell us what we really are doing in the review of literature. So how that has to be done, that is being dictated by this ontology and epistemology. So if somebody has taught you how to do review of literature, so look at from this perspective of the philosophy of review of literature, then you will understand, okay, so I'm doing the review like this. Maybe this is the purpose. This is why I am doing the review like this. So that way you can start connecting to the procedure that you have been taught. So what is ontology? The ontology is a branch of metaphysics. So in the first class, we saw that philosophy as a subject, it has around six major subjects under it. The metaphysics, epistemology, logic, aesthetics, ethics, and politics. These are some six major branches of philosophy. So if you go and look at metaphysics, again, metaphysics has its own branches. So under metaphysics, you will have again different categories of subjects under that. And one of the subject is ontology. What is ontology is, it is a study of nature of being or existence or reality. So it means it is talking about the existence of this world and the knowledge that is available in this world, what is real. So that is what the characteristics of the metaphysics itself. So metaphysics holds the knowledge about each and every object of this world and their relationship. But what is specific to ontology, which comes under metaphysics, is ontology speaks about how to categorize and how to look at their relationship. So you can read this. Ontology is the study of nature of being, the existence or reality, as well as basic categories of being and their relationship. So it means that we are trying to categorize those existence or the reality or what we can call it as knowledge into different areas. So ontology deals with the questions concerning what entities exist or can said to be exist, and how such entities can be grouped. So you will understand as we go through, when I give examples, you will understand what is that grouping and what is that entities, what is that exist. So related within a hierarchy of subdivided according to similarities and differences. So the knowledge is actually subdivided based on its similarities and differences and is being stacked under an hierarchy. So that is what the ontology is trying to tell us. So to give a clear picture, ontology is like your brain, which separates each of the knowledge into separate areas. In maybe in practical sense, we are calling them as subjects or courses, or sometimes we even call it as a domain knowledge or knowledge domain. So the entire world's knowledge is being grouped into various subjects. To be very straightforward, we can say that ontology is the subject that talks about the subject. Because of ontology only, we are having so many subjects: mathematics, science. Within science, again, you see chemistry, biology, physics. Again, under biology, you will have zoology, botany. Like that, you go on dividing the knowledge into groups of knowledge with similar knowledge and call it as a subject. So even in management, when you come, again, you can have a broad knowledge about business, which can be again categorized into HR, marketing, systems, finance. Like that, we go on dividing those knowledge into subject areas. So this exercise of grouping the knowledge and identifying a subject is called as the ontology. So if you look at ontology is both about the content, that is what is there within the particular subject area, and how they are related, as well as the boundary. So every subject will have a boundary, and that separates the knowledge into the boundary, and we call that as a domain. See, sometimes the boundary is very unclear. Sometimes some knowledge is across the boundary. In both the boundaries, it will be there. So we call it as disciplinary, interdisciplinary, transdisciplinary, multidisciplinary. So you can look at disciplinary as one boundary, a discipline. So one area, science as a discipline. So if science is a discipline and mathematics is another discipline, there is an overlapping of it. So there is mathematics into the science. So then science is a kind of a subject that covers two different areas. So like that, sometimes boundaries are not very strict. Boundaries may merge, but there will be virtual boundaries, and there will be division going on within it. That is a hierarchy. As I said, from one level to the other level, the hierarchy will keep going on, and the knowledge will get split into small groups. So, for example, management can be divided into marketing. Marketing can be divided into consumer behavior, retail management, or something like that. Within the marketing, you can divide it into sales management or customer relationship management. Within sales management, we can divide it into negotiation. Like that, within subjects, we can keep on dividing, and we can keep drilling it down to the last knowledge, last piece of knowledge. So that's what ontology is dealing with both content as well as the boundary which determines the domain. That is what is ontology. So because of this ontological exercise only, the entire world knowledge, though if you remove those boundaries, the entire knowledge is one single piece of body of knowledge. So it's about the entire world's knowledge of existence and the reality. But as we go dividing it into various knowledges, there is a kind of connections also. So people have done this exercise, mapping the knowledge of the entire world. So you can type this map of knowledge. There is a website which takes you to this picture. You can see this picture on the screen talking about the map of the knowledge. You see, the subject areas are shown as small nodes, each area. And those nodes put together can become one area. And that is connected to another area. So you may draw a boundary anywhere and you can identify a subject, or divide that boundary and identify two different subjects. And you can keep on dividing it. And every subject is connected with each other. That is what the entirety of the knowledge. So the world knowledge, you can look at the connection. So you can connect child psychology to polymer. Child psychology to polymer by going through these connections. You can see child psychology is connected with psychology. Psychology is connected with cognitive science. Cognitive science is connected with nutrition. Nutrition is connected with environmental science. Environmental science is connected with plant biology. Plant biology is connected with microbiology. Microbiology is connected with biochemistry. Biochemistry is connected with polymers. Like that, we can see the connections. It goes on. So every knowledge of this world is connected. Only for our understanding, we have separated them into small subjects. So that is why a lot of streams nowadays exist. And we go on dividing those knowledge into new subjects also. But still they are derived from the same old subjects. So that we need to understand. So whenever you look at a subject, now you can say that it's an ontological exercise. So that is why these subjects are divided. Otherwise, we can have all these into one. Earlier, we used to have just one subject called science. Then we divided it into different science. Likewise, even social science. Now we divide it into geography, history, even civics, Like that, we keep dividing the subjects. Even in management, we used to have very few subjects. Now we have hundreds of subjects. That is entirely because of the ontological exercise. So please understand that ontological exercise is nothing but grouping the knowledge into a similar knowledge and differentiating from the another group of knowledge so that the domain is understood. So I will talk about how this applies to the review of literature. We'll come to that later, but please currently understand that ontology is about what is there inside a particular group and where is the boundary of the group or the domain, and what is the next boundary or where this knowledge is connected with. That is the understanding about the ontology. So why do we consider ontology? Into research, why do we consider ontology? There are different ways of understanding the application of ontology. Ontology may be grouping of the knowledge, but it also talks about the content of the knowledge. So whenever we are looking at the content of the knowledge, what does ontology do is, ontology helps us to understand the world. Okay? So our current knowledge is because of the ontology. There is an evolution. There is an evolution. There is a change happening. And the knowledge gets changed, rewritten. Knowledge gets rewritten. So ontology, if you go through the content of this ontology, you will know the depth of the knowledge or the change in the knowledge or the evolution of the knowledge, how it has changed over the time. And that is going to help us to have the current knowledge. What is today's understanding? Earlier it may be like this, but what is it today? What is the knowledge today? So likewise, we update ourselves because of the ontology. So ontology tells us what is the recent level of knowledge, so that it helps us from reinventing. Only if you know what is available beforehand, you will be not exploring again. No need to do that. So we call it as don't reinvent the wheel, because wheel is already there. Most of us, we don't understand the philosophy of the review of literature, why review of literature has to be done. For the namesake, since it is told by your research faculty that you need to do review of literature, you will do. And you will ask how many literatures to do without even understanding the purpose. The purpose of doing a review of literature is to understand what is the level of the existing knowledge, so that I don't reinvent the wheel. So now you will understand the purpose of review of literature. The main purpose, if there is an existing knowledge, then I will not waste my time developing the same knowledge. So that is how in research, the ontology is connected, so that we don't spend time or waste time in reinventing the wheel. So how ontology is applied to review of literature? So coming to the point, how philosophy of review of literature or how ontology is applied to review of literature is, we'll be doing various kind of analysis with the literature and coming out with various understanding about the literature. One is the evolution of that particular concept. You take, for example, one concept like leadership. See, by doing an ontological exercise on the review of literature, what you are trying to do is, when did this concept emerge or evolve? When was the first time this term was used? Leadership, you take example, leadership. And how did this definition of this leadership change over the time? And what is the current knowledge about leadership, or what is the current definition about leadership? See, I'm just giving an example of leadership. So you take your own research area, whatever keyword or whatever concept that you are using, you think of that concept and try to understand when did this concept emerge. For example, you take motivation. So when did this concept of motivation emerge? Who proposed this concept? And how this concept changed? So over the time, a lot of people would have added to that knowledge, and there will be a lot of additions or changes happening to the concept, and we arrive at the last point. What is the current definition of that particular concept? So what is motivation as on today? What is the definition of motivation as on today? So by doing a review of literature, we try to track the beginning of that particular concept, and we try to trace the evolution of that particular concept and try to come and say what is the current knowledge of the particular concept. So that is the main exercise that we do in doing review of literature. So now you will be able to connect why you are trying to find research articles. You may be asked to do recent literatures. You may be asked to find out the seminal articles. You may be asked who proposed this particular concept. You tell me who is the author. So like that, we may have a kind of review that we are trying to do by understanding the evolution. So how that has changed over the time, that is very, very important. If you are not doing this, what you are going to do, your current knowledge may be here at the LED bulbs, but you will be reinventing a filament bulb. That would happen. So in research, you will come and say that I found something. There are people who claim I found something. That is nowhere. But without doing a proper review of literature, we'll be doing that because we don't understand the evolution. So this is the first purpose, how we apply ontology into the review of literature. The second thing is we are trying to find out the concepts around the particular concept. So what are those meaning of that particular concept? So we call it as a concept map. See, by doing a review of literature, we try to map the entire concept. For example, if you take personality, a concept of personality. So you will try to find out what is the definition of personality. Who are the people who contributed to the concept of personality? Then you will say what are the different dimensions of personality, how to measure personality, how to change personality, how does personality influence factors. So like that, around the keyword, we start to understand. So this is what exploring around the particular concept or the concept itself. We are trying to understand the different dimension or meaning of the concept. If we say leadership, then I will say, what is leadership? Who are the people who defined leadership? What are the different types of leadership? Where is the leadership applied? Likewise, on one concept, we try to expand the understanding about that concept. So by doing review of literature, we keep radial expansion of the particular concept. So initially that concept itself, and now around that concept, giving meaning to the concept. So this is called as the concept mapping. Then again, what we do is we try to relate it. So this is kind of a relationship map. how it is related with different other variables. So leadership may be connected with personality. Leadership may be connected with performance. Leadership may be connected with motivation. See, motivation as a concept, leadership as a concept, personality as a concept, they are different concepts with different domains. Now, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to connect those different concepts. Here, this is different perspectives of the same concept, different dimensions of the same concept, but this is connection of that with other concepts. That is what you will have to find. So by doing review of literature, many of you will, what you will do is you will try to fix yourself with one keyword and keep on reviewing only that keyword. No. You need to first understand the extent of that particular concept, that keyword. And then you need to find out the connection with this keyword. What other concepts are connected to that? So when we are talking about the connection, what we will do is we need to explore, like keeping that variable as an independent variable. So what are the variables that are outcomes of this particular concept? For example, I'm going to show you some of the models where I have taken one concept, that is motivation. So keep focusing on motivation. So here, motivation has been used as an input variable. So I will keep searching for literatures where motivation is used as an factor or as an independent variable, so that I will be able to understand what are the other concepts that are used along with motivation, and what are the variables that is considered as the consequences of this concept. What is the consequences of motivation, or what does motivation lead to? That we need to first make a list of it. Many of you start with the literature review of the concept that you have taken, but that is not enough. What you will have to do is you will have to start looking at forward looking, or forward direction, and try to find out what are the other variables that are used as the consequences of this particular variable. So what does motivation lead to? Motivation will lead to employee engagement. Motivation will lead to competence. Like that, you will find out n number of variables that is connected with the motivation as a consequences. Now coming to motivation as the dependent variable. Try to find out literature where your concept is being used as a dependent variable, and try to find out what are the anteceding variables, or antecedents are factors, so that you will find out this is my variable. So what influences my variable? What influences my concept? So that literature also you need to start doing. Then what you will do, how does my concept or my variable can be an intermediate or a confounding variable? So you look at this model, motivation is here in the middle. So it is mediating. This is a mediation effect. Okay, this is a mediating effect. So motivation is mediating the work design and the performance. Or motivation is mediating organization culture and performance. So now I start doing a set of literature, trying to find out where they have used my concept as a mediating variable. Then I will start looking at people using it as a, here it is used as an intermediate variable, not as a moderating variable. It is used as an intermediate variable where reward influences employee motivation influences work outcomes. I'll show next model with the moderating effect. So some people call this as a moderating effect, but you can treat like the in-between variable. Here it is mediating. Here it is mediating because there is a direct connection here. Here this is not mediating. It's not a moderator. This is kind of an intermediate variable. So the impact passes through this and affects this. Then motivation here is used as a moderating variable. Moderates the relationship. So message framing to consumer risk perception, how motivation is going to moderate. So I'm trying to find out the literature where motivation is used as a moderator. So you can see that we are trying to analyze one concept in so many ways. That is what the ontology tells about understanding the content of the domain, the boundary of the domain, and the relationships of the domain. So we are looking at the evolution of the knowledge. When did the knowledge begin? What is the current knowledge? What is the understanding about the concepts itself? What is it? What is leadership? What is motivation? What is personality? What is it? Then we are trying to connect it with other variables. And when we are connecting, we are keeping that in different positions. So as a independent variable or as a factor, as a dependent variable, as a mediating variable, as an intermediate variable, as a moderating variable, we are trying to understand the depth of the concept. So this is what the ontological exercise is. So if you go back to this, what is ontology? So it will clearly tell what is the content, what is the domain, and how they are related. So that is what we are trying to do by doing this exercise. I hope you are clear with ontology, the application of ontology into the review of literature. I'm not talking about how you will read, how you will collect, where you will read. All those things maybe I will touch upon, but the purpose of this session is to give you the philosophical purpose of doing a review of literature. So now you will understand, no, I have no necessity to tell you how many literatures to do, what literature to read, what further literature to do, everything you are able to understand. So by doing this, entire exercise, what happens is you are able to see the forest as well as the tree. Let us take that the bright tree here is your concept. But bright tree is your concept, and there is around it there is an ecosystem. So you are trying to see not only your concept, you are also trying to see what is there around this concept. So think of this. I'll give you 2 minutes time. Just focus on whatever variable you have worked on, whatever you have done. So you try to map yourself. What is this concept and what is around this concept? You try to visualize it. Have you done this exercise earlier? So try to visualize yourself. So somebody is asking content and domain. See, content is what is there inside. Domain is the boundary, limit where you draw. So the content within the boundary will become the domain. So that is what content and domain. So by doing an ontological exercise, we are trying to see what is there within the domain, entire content within the domain, and what is beyond the domain around it and how it is connected. So that is how the ontological exercise happens. So are you able to understand and try to connect with your variable that you are looking at? Anybody, if interested, you can explain if you are able to visualize what I'm trying to tell as an ontology from your own example that you have, the variable that you are working or the literature that you are doing. So how did you do, what concept you take, how you will search, and how you will arrive at the inside and outside of the particular concept. Anybody likes to share? Okay, so just have a visualization. So then you will understand what is ontology. So we'll move on to the next. Yes, sir. Yeah.
Yes, no, I just had, I mean, I was thinking when you were sharing about the ontology, right? I mean, how we can link it. Basically, it should be like a structure,
Yeah.
right? Pattern which would help us to, have a theory and, back up everything. Because I guess one thing, everything should be factual.
No,
So,
factual only because we are trying to find out from the literature. That is the literature. So we are searching for the truth and we are searching for the facts only. But think of those facts as a concept. So that concept, how the entire world is made of this concepts only. So each concept is related to another concept. That is what we understand this world. True. Maybe you take light. What is light? So light is something that is made up of some spectrum of colors. So we say VGR. And what is a color? Then we will ask. Then you will tell that what is being reflected is what we are seeing, and that is what the color we are seeing. So the color of the object is opposite to what we are seeing. If it is an yellow object you are looking at, the actual color of the object is not yellow. The actual color of the object is yellow minus other colors. So that is why yellow color is being reflected, and then our eyes observe that color and we see it as yellow. So likewise, what is light? What is color? What is that we see? Like that, when we are drilling down, we are able to understand the entire theory of color or light or physics or chemistry. So whatever comes out, we are able to connect. And this is what is the world concepts, and this is what is the knowledge about the world, and what is the object, what is existing. That is how we are looking at knowledge as. Okay, so now moving on, we say review of literature. What is that review? What we are really trying to do? It is not an English language. So any research paper we take, it is written in English. And we are trying to read it, and we are trying to understand the language, or we are trying to infer it. That is not the actual review. So what we really will have to do under the review? First is we read and understand. First thing is what is written and what is it. Read and understand. So that is what the first part of the review is. When you start doing a review of literature, we are trying to understand what is the what is it written and what is the meaning of it. So read and then understand. So next is we are trying to see things within that. So maybe we look at the concepts, the connections, various concepts, everything we are trying to see them as objects. So everything in the pieces we are trying to see. Then what we are trying to do is we are trying to see the similarities. Whenever we are reading a research article, when we read 2 or 3 articles, we are trying to understand the similarities in that particular article or a research. Then what we are trying to do is we are trying to find out the differences. This is my first article. This is my second article. These are similar between these articles. This is different in these articles. And we are trying to find a pattern. What is a pattern? What is there in the first article? What is there in the second article? is there a kind of a pattern that is emerging? Then we try to synthesize. We try to synthesize the information that is coming out of different articles. So that is what we are trying to do by doing a review. So read and understand, look for different areas, find the patterns, find the similarities, find the differences, and do the synthesis. Many of us, what we do is, we take a literature, we read the literature, we immediately comprehend the literature, or just take the abstract and put it into our Word file. That's all done. My literature review is over. Like that, you do 50 articles, my literature review is done. So what is the purpose? What did I learn by reading 50 literatures? Nothing. Because the thesis requires one chapter called review of literature, so I have brought in the review of literature. Or my faculty asks for, or my research supervisor asks for, or any publication asks for. Sorry, 1 minute. One minute. So then I will read some article for the sake of doing it. I'll write few lines and make a paragraph and put it and give it to the person who is. Without understanding why I'm doing that, how I need to do it, we do it. So if you look at the ontology, we spoke, we are trying to create the domain, understand the content within that domain. We are trying to expand the domain and see the connections. That how do we do? By doing this way of review, by looking at the similarities, looking at the differences, finding the pattern and then synthesizing it, then coming out with a collective way of. So I'll give you one more example of how the ontology works and why the ontology has to be seriously taken while doing a review of literature. Because how do we understand the concepts is whatever prior information that is available with us is what helps us in inferring or understanding a new stimuli that is coming. So psychology people will know what is a stimuli and what is perception and how do we understand things. So we are seeing. It means our eyes are receiving some light. We are getting some visuals. How do we infer what is there on that visual is with the available information. What is there already within us. And we have already grouped certain knowledge. And you are going to understand the particular stimuli only on the information that is already there and trying to push this new knowledge into that particular area, only then you will understand. So it may be confusing. I'll give an example, then you will understand. So can you tell to what area does this connected with? Virus. Which domain? Which subject area is this concept? We can call it as a concept, we can call it as a word, we can call it as a keyword, or we can call it as a variable, or we can call it as some knowledge. So when I say virus, to which subject area it is connected? So already I got some answers.
Pathology.
Biology, microbiology, then
Pathology.
computers. See, each one of you are looking at this particular word by connecting it to different domain. You're trying to connect it with a different domain, and based on the domain only, you're trying to understand this keyword. Somebody who is going and connecting this with the microbiology, somebody who is going to connect this with computer science, they will understand this in a different way. That is how ontology works. Please understand. So I'll give you one more example. What is this? Try explaining it. What is this? Cell. So how do you interpret this? How do you interpret this? What is written here? Cell. Yeah, I'm able to read it. But tell me, what is that? What is a cell? So people have given microbiology. So under microbiology, we have cell. Under electronics, we have cell. Prison. Cell is also a prison. And cell phone. Okay. So this is how ontology works. See, unless we create a domain and group the knowledge that is already we have taken, we put it into a group. When a new knowledge comes in, we try to interpret it by connecting it with the previous knowledge and then understand. That is what is ontology. I'll give you one more example. If you are doing research, if somebody is doing research on information system, there is a concept called KMS, knowledge management system. See, knowledge management system is a keyword. If I am searching for literatures of knowledge management system, if you don't properly review it, properly understand it, you may go into a wrong domain, because knowledge management system is there in HR area also. In HR, we speak about knowledge management system. And in information system also, we talk about knowledge management system. In education also, we talk about knowledge management system. So then, which knowledge management system am I talking about? That is determined by the domain which I am dealing with. So that is why, as you read the literature, you are trying to visualize, you are trying to map, you are trying to create the domain, you are trying to draw the border, and you are trying to connect it, and you are trying to find the similarity, so that you are able to create the image of the entire concept and the knowledge. And that is the purpose of the ontology. So by reading one article, your entire understanding about that article comes out of connecting it to the particular domain. So you need to mentally create that domain. It's not that domain is existing somewhere. The domain has to be within you. So you need to create the domain. So when you read first paper, your domain is just added. Second paper, your domain is added. Third paper, your domain is added. As you go reading the entire lot of literatures, your domain gets strengthened. So that is the purpose of doing multiple review of literature. By reading again and again, we are able to create the domain, understand the domain, and also infer it. So if you look at this is how the ontology keeps adding to this domain. So ontologies do not only introduce a shareable and reusable knowledge, that is, try to give you an existing knowledge and what is the extent of knowledge and what is the boundary of that knowledge, but can also add new knowledge about the domain. So by doing an ontological exercise, we come out with new knowledge into the same domain. So that is how, if you look at before computer science, this belonged to another domain. But later, this was added into the computer science domain. Similarly, as technology grew, this term also has got added into the other domain. Likewise, new terminologies, new words can also get added to the domain. So within that particular domain, there may be concepts, new concepts coming into that particular domain. So that is what is ontology. So the first part of our philosophy of the review of literature, I hope you would have understood what is ontology. So whatever you do in the name of review of literature, what you are trying to do is you are trying to do an ontological exercise. Entire review of literature is an ontological exercise. So if you don't do the ontological exercise, if your ontological exercise is not thorough, then you will not be able to handle the variables, design your research, execute your research, or whatever analysis you are doing, you will not be able to infer those results, and you cannot make meaning out of your findings. So therefore, you will not be able to connect it. So therefore, without ontology, your research is just a process or a procedure. Without ontology, your entire research is just a procedure or a process. The heart and soul will miss. The ontology is not there in your research. Entire heart and soul will miss. So it will be just the piece of work. So this becomes the important philosophy of your entire research. Not only research, the purpose of a review of literature and the core meaning of a review of literature, and why review of literature is an important part of research, and why review of literature has to be done any time of your research process. It is not that at one time only you will do review of literature. You are doing review of literature the entire length of the research, and review of literature is one way of learning a new subject area, new domain itself. So that is where the power of research comes. So the entire research becomes beneficial. Yes, sir.
For example, one topic or theme we have chosen, and then there
Yes,
are
sir.
based on sub themes. For example, 5 sub themes. We have collected all related articles. So we have
Yes,
about 250 articles, sir. So
okay,
in order to synthesize out of those sub theme based 50 articles, should we read everything and then synthesize, or after reading one article, we will have to just summarize and try to find out what the author tries to say, and then we have to go to the second, third, fourth, fifth, and then try relating to within sub theme again further grouping of articles we should do, or how it should be, sir. For
I'm coming
example,
to.
yeah. Okay,
I understood that. I'm coming to that. I have a slides on that. Elaborately, we'll discuss, sir. Okay.
So I have a doubt, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, so that means the title of my research, it can happen only after I've done this ontological exercise, right?
No, actually what we say is title of the research can happen only after you finish your research.
Okay.
Because if you look at how to name your research work or as a paper or as a dissertation, there are norms like APA says there should be only 14 words, less than 14 words of title, and the title has to spell out the theory or the variable. The title has to spell out what kind of relationship between the variables you are trying to find, or the title has to spell out what is the methodology you are using. So if these things are required on a title, then certainly I will tell that your title can come only once you complete your research. Till then you cannot have a firm title for your research. Maybe you can have a tentative area of your research, then you can talk about your variables, you can talk about your hypothesis, but never you can have a firm title of your work.
Sir, but most of the
Thank you, sir.
universities expect the title to be registered in the beginning, right?
Sir, that is what a wrong procedure is, sir. And
Okay, sir.
it's not many universities, sir. Some universities, many universities, they ask for area of the research, and then only at the submission of the synopsis stage, they look at the firm title, sir. Otherwise, they don't ask title in the beginning.
Okay.
There are universities, sir, which only accept what do you call a research area. So you need to only give a tentative title. There is nothing called as a registration of a title.
Mhm.
That is the problem. As you said, some universities, they ask for a title and they register the title, and then they say you cannot change the title.
Exactly,
And
sir. Yeah.
then they have a procedure for changing the title.
Procedure.
They will ask
Yes,
us
yes.
to pay some fees. All those
Yes,
things are there, sir.
exactly.
That is totally different, sir. So actual title will emerge only after you complete your research. Sometimes some
That's logically
people
correct, sir.
some people say that your title has to carry the outcome of your research. What is your direction? What did you find? That has to be reflected into the title. So that is some a different paradigm, different kind of expectations, sir. So now I hope you will be able to understand that even in
Exactly, sir. You are right.
research
Yes.
there are paradigms. In universities also there are paradigms. Yes, sir. Yeah.
Yes.
So now we will move on to the next area of the philosophy of review of literature. As I told you, the next area is the epistemology. So what is the epistemology? We have already seen in our first session. Epistemology is nothing but knowledge about the knowledge. So epistemology is a branch of philosophy concerned with the nature and scope or limitation of the knowledge. Or we put it as what is the knowledge? How is that knowledge acquired? What is the extent is it possible for a given subject or entity to be known? Or we even saw that epistemology is measuring the level of truth. Epistemology is measuring the level of truth. So then in review of literature, what we are doing? How are we measuring the level of the truth in it? So that is where, so you know that epistemology is just a justification of the knowledge. So this I'm skipping. We have already talked about that. How and why the epistemology is used in review of literature is because the articles, which is the main source of our review of literature, there are many types of research articles. So you will see review articles, you will see technical reports, you will see conference proceedings, you will see data papers, you will see clinical trials, you will see reviews, you will see clinical case studies, you will see opinion articles, you will see letters and communication, you will see original research articles. There are literature available in different types. Then what is the matter here? So what is that? What is the truth in this What is the level of truth in this? For example, if it is an opinion article, it's only a concept. It's only a one person's opinion. It's not generalized. It is not tested. It is not validated. It is not accepted by many. So therefore, the truth is just one person's truth. Same time, if you look at clinical case studies, the truth is in that one particular case. Again, generalizability problem. But if it is a original research article, empirical, with samples, lot of samples, high samples, then the truth is through the experiment. So that is what the level of truth, if it is imagined, or whether it is apparent, or whether it is actual. So conceptual papers will have distortion. Case studies will have observation. But true experiments only will have the ultimate truth in it. So now you would have understood what is epistemology in review of literature is. When you're picking up an article, when you're reading an article, what you're trying to do is you're trying to focus on what is the methodology of this particular article. Why I need to read the methodology of that particular article? Because I'm trying to find out whatever they have found or whatever they are claiming, how they are claiming. Is it they are claiming after doing an experiment? Or is it they are claiming based on their observation? Or is their claim based on their intuition? Or is the claim based on some imagination? A conceptual paper. Many of you would have seen conceptual papers. Conceptual paper is not a validated work. The truth in it is very much less. Even survey research, we many times call it as a perceptual research. Survey is kind of a perception only. That is why even better than survey research is the experimental research. So, is that knowledge that I have what you call filtered out from that research article is based on experiment? Is it based on intuition? Is it based on concept? Is it based on observation? That is what is called as the epistemological exercise.
So, sir, it's an evaluation process, right?
It's an evaluation process. That's why when you read a paper and you are taking a knowledge out of it, and when you are presenting it to somebody, you need to be very clear whether this particular claim that you are putting it before people, that is the general public, or the research community, or the research committees, or even anybody who is listening to you, when you are saying that it is a knowledge, you need to also declare, is this knowledge the ultimate knowledge? Otherwise, how do people believe? How can I believe what you are saying is 100% true? So that is why when you are reviewing a paper and you filter out the essence from that paper as a theory or as a knowledge, and if you are putting it into your paper without even understanding the source of that information, what is the authenticity of that information, or what is that method by which the knowledge was created, and if you are going to say that this is affirmed knowledge, but that was a conceptual piece, then that will go wrong. That is what is the epistemological exercise. So while you are reading, you search for what is the level of truth in that particular paper. You try to categorize those papers. These are experiment papers. These are survey papers. These are case study papers. These are conceptual papers. And the knowledge that you read from a conceptual paper, you just believe it. You don't depend on it because it's only a concept. It is not validated. So you need to map it. When that knowledge is generated, you need to map that knowledge to what extent that knowledge has the truth in it. So don't take a conceptual paper, read something there, and come and say affirmatively that that author told that this variable is related this with this variable. You cannot have the 100% dependency on that because that's only a conceptual paper. When you are presenting it, you can say that that author proposed that there may be a relationship. So then it has to be validated. Like that only you can present. So you cannot use it 100% saying that somebody has found the relationship between these variables, then I will use it. You cannot claim it like that. So evaluate the information, evaluate the knowledge, and that exercise is called as the epistemological exercise. See, still there are other validation methods. I'll come to that. I'll talk about the source of the literature. Even there, you are doing an epistemological exercise. That is where we talk about indexed journals, high impact journals. Why? Because the truth has been evaluated there. Don't go with the XYZ journal. Don't go with the article written by anyone that is published without a peer review process, because the truth in it is a questionable. So, two things: review of literature, the foundation of review of literature, ontology, that is understanding the subject, around the subject, and the connections between variables so that you become an expert of that particular knowledge. Second thing, what is the level of truth in it? So where does that particular knowledge exist? So many times we do validation research. When somebody has proposed it as a conceptual level, we take that and convert that into an empirical research. That is also a research. But you need to declare that this is a concept that is proposed. It is not tested yet, so I will test it. So you become a tester. You're testing the proposition given by somebody. A conceptual paper is there. You operationalize it. You collect the data. You collect the evidence. You find the truth, and you can declare it. That is what is the epistemology is about. So I hope you understand the philosophy of doing review of literature, the ontological perspective, the epistemological perspective. So this is where it becomes the procedure. I'll talk about some of the tools and techniques, and also I will connect it to the ontology and epistemology of doing a review of literature. So whenever we are reading a research paper, so now I'm coming to the point, how do you do the review? Whenever you are reading a review of literature, that is any article, there are three things you need to do. One is the ontological exercise, what I can call it as a body of knowledge. By doing review of literature, you are creating a body of knowledge. Second thing is you are understanding the methodology or the procedure by which that body of knowledge was created. So this is the methodology section that you will read. Then there is one more thing you will have to learn while doing a review of literature is the style. How the article is written. what is the language being used, what is the flow of the writing, how they present the idea. That is also being learned while you are doing a review of literature. See, I will not spend much time here because there is one full session on what is the flow and style of writing research articles and theses. That's our 9th and 10th topic in the second workshop. So the style of articles. So many of us, we need to read the research article in different perspectives. See, you cannot do all these things in one go. See, while looking at the body of knowledge, you will forget the methodology. When you are focusing on the body of knowledge and the methodology, you will miss out the style of the writing. So that is why when you are doing a review of literature, you need to read the review of literature, or you need to read the particular paper multiple times with multiple perspective. It's not that one time you will read, then you will throw that paper because you have understood that. Not like that. See, read the paper from different perspective. First time when you read the paper, try to look at what is the theory. Second time when you read the paper, try to find out what are the variables being used. Third time when you read the paper, try to understand the application and what is around it, what does it impact. That is like independent, dependent, consequences, antecedent, everything around that concept you try to read. Third time when you read the paper, try to understand the methodology of the paper. Fourth time when you read the paper, try to see what is the structure of the paper. Fifth time when you read, you see how they have written the introduction, how they have written the review of literature, how they have written the methodology section, how they have written the findings and discussion, how they have written the conclusion. Likewise, you try to see one aspect at a time so that you spend multiple cycle of reading so that you will be able to pull out different information specifically. See, all these images, I am spending a lot of time searching for these images so that it is self-explanatory. I'm able to convey my message, what you are trying to do by doing a review of literature. See, this is the research article. There are so many things embedded into the research article. There are so much of things. But you are trying to pull it out. Each string out, you are trying to pull out. Each time when you read, you are trying to pull out one string out of it. So one type of information you are trying to pull. So don't read one paper once and say that I have done my review of literature, everything is done, I know what is there. No. Give multiple reading with a focused reading so that you come out with this specific information. Try to read the articles only on the theory or the model that is presented. Look at the variables alone. Look at the methodology. Look at the sample they have used. Look at the analysis they have done. Look at how they are concluding. Like that, each run, try to understand each piece of information. Don't grasp everything together. we do that, no? So one article, okay, one read, that too, just browse it, we throw it, we say that everything is done. So that is why we need to look at what is the structure of the article. So there is something called IMRAD structure, or the chess coin. These things I'm going to touch upon in the writing, but I'm just presenting here because when we are doing a review of literature, this is ontology, this is epistemology. Then there is one more thing that you need to concentrate, like how people write. How people write, what people write. So that is also how communication happens, what is the style, what is the flow, that has to be also understood by going through the review. So I'm putting it under the review process. So 3 things that you will do while reviewing a paper, that is understanding the ontology, understanding the epistemology, understanding the style of writing, so that you learn how to write. When you write your paper, you will be able to understand how you will use a particular term, how you will present your finding. So that way you will be able to write a proper research paper. So there is something called as an academic phrase bank, which says even what specific word you will have to use in the introduction, what specific word you will have to use in the research methodology, what specific word you will have to use in the literature, what specific word you will have to use in the conclusion. So this is a book available, Academic Phrase Bank. So when you're writing the purpose of the research, these are some phrases that you will have to use. That's standard, so that communication, the style of saying something, that is all defined. Okay, so 3 things: review, ontology, epistemology, and the style of writing. 3 things you will review. So by doing a review of literature, you end up a good writer. You should be able to write a good paper. So you know how the paper will look like, what are the chapters or what are the sections of a paper, how people, what word they use, how the sentence is framed, how they communicate. All those things has to be coming out of that. So every process is a learning process. Okay, so coming to the review of literature as a process, how it goes through. So identify the literature, validate whether that is a good literature, categorize those literature, then summarize after reading that, then evaluate those literature, synthesize, and then find out what is the gap in the particular knowledge. So this is a process of a review of literature. So I'm not going to elaborate all these things. We are going to see a few things in a practical way. So what we really do when we are doing a review of literature, so that we are going to see. So let us see what to read. That is identifying the literature and choosing a literature. Many of us randomly choose the literature, and many people don't understand what are the various sources of the literature or various sources of the information. So you can see what are the knowledge sources. So we call it as primary literature, secondary literature, tertiary literature. What is the primary literature? Primary literature is available in research articles. That is straight from the farm, straight from the researcher, immediate result of a research activity. Secondary literature is processed. So somebody has read these primary literature and they have put their own inferences to it, and they come out with the secondary literature source. And third one is textbooks. Most of the textbooks is the knowledge or the content is taken from many research. So the research knowledge is accumulated into a textbook or a dictionary, encyclopedia, or a handbook. That is called as a tertiary literature. See, you can read all these literatures. You can read all these different sources, textbooks. See, but when you are quoting a textbook, you need to know from where it is coming. So the ontology of that particular knowledge. So where is that beginning of that knowledge comes from? Then you need to go for the primary literature on. See, one more thing I need to clarify here. In review of literature, or in the methodology section, there are people who write saying that this research uses primary data and the secondary data. The secondary data are from the research articles, review of literature. See, actually, what you are taking from any literature is only knowledge, not the data. So this is not a secondary data. A lot of people confuse with the data and the literature. I've seen a lot of research articles written, theses written, where people are confused with what is primary data and secondary data, and what is primary literature and secondary literature. They say primary data is coming from survey and secondary data from literature. See, from literature, you cannot get secondary data unless it is a completely secondary data based research where you are taking market information or kind of historical information. But that is not the literature, no? That's not literature, that's a data. So please have this in mind. So I'm seeing that a lot of people are making mistake here by writing. When they are writing a research article or a thesis, I'm seeing that they are mentioning it wrongly. The secondary data and primary data, what is that? Primary literature and secondary literature, what is it? They are just confusing. Okay. So now, how many literatures to read? So this answers a lot of people's question, and also it answers to Professor Sakhilesh sir his question of how to read, whether to read every paper in depth. See, there are different ways of reading the literature, finding the literature, and going through the literature. See, first way of finding out the reviews and reading the literature review is many times I don't read the article at all. I will only go through the title. So quick review, thousands of review you can do, quickly you can do. I'll show that, I'll explain that. Where are we? Yeah. So thousands of review in 1 hour. In 1 hour, I can go through 1,000 titles or 1,000 articles. How that is useful, I'll come to that. So this is one way of doing it. Next one is searching and finding out the seminal article. That is the main articles. The main article who introduced the term or who used it as a core variable. Those articles you try to find out, read it, preserve it. I will tell that you need to print and bind and keep certain articles in your hand every time. Many scholars, they come for research presentations without any document, without any work, without anything in their hand, no papers. That is a bad way of doing research or presenting a research. Seminal papers, you need to take printout, you need to highlight it, you need to put some markers, you need to have sticky notes. So that is what a seminal article is. You need to print it and have it in your hand. So you need to thoroughly read every word in this particular article, you will remember. See, for your entire research, you may have some 10 articles like that. Seminal articles are the core article that is required for you, which will be your base of your entire research. Maybe 10 articles. You take printout, have it in your hand, read it thoroughly, line by line, between line, over the line. You read, mark it. That is something how a researcher will have to read up it. Then find out popular articles. What is popular articles? Articles with more citations. Don't read an article that has no citation. So try to find out what is the article available with more citations for it. Then try to find out a recent article published within 2 years and 5 years. Like that, you'll have to find. See, many people are told this one. Okay, many people who some supervisors or faculties or any research methodology class, you are told to do review of literature of the recent articles. But only doing the recent article, you have missed out the ontology. Why? Because you do not know where does it begin, how did it evolve, how did it change. So this is only for the last leg of it. To understand what is the current state of the knowledge, you need to read the recent literature. But to understand when it began and how it moved or how it transformed, you need to read here and there. The beginning, the middle, all those articles you need to read. So that is how you need to split your. So some people blindly they will follow whatever the faculty or whatever the supervisors tell them, or whatever is being taught in their coursework or whatever is taught in your research methodology class. Without asking question why I need to do that, they will just follow. So in every research committee, they will say, you need to read the recent article. Where are the recent articles? But why only recent articles? Where is your seminal article? Where is your beginning? Don't miss that. Okay. So have this in mind. Quick review. Thousands of articles. Thousands of articles. See, 1 hour per variable. 1 hour per variable. One keyword. One keyword. Spend 1 hour. You search. Change a keyword. 1 hour you spend. You read 1,000. Another change the keyword, 1 hour you spend. How many literatures you have read? 10,000 literatures. But you are not going to refer that. I'm going to tell you how you will use that quick review. How you are going to use the quick review. Again, finding out the articles. As sir was asking, Sakley sir was asking.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
You are reading on your research area. You are looking at related studies also. You are looking at general studies in your field, and also you are reading the theoretical part of it. This is another way of looking at what papers I will read. So don't read only articles with your keyword alone. A lot of people do that. I will search for this keyword. Whatever article is available with this keyword, I will read. I will not read any other article. That ontology will not work. Ontology will not work. Then I will come and say, there are no literature. There is no theory related with my problem. There is no research done in my area, or there is no research done on my particular variable. That is how we will start claiming. Yeah, that's a wrong claim, because you move from your research area. Move from your research area. Try to find out the related studies. You try to find out in general area. And you try to find out theory and how the theory is being used in different areas. So this is the spread of the research articles. This is how you will deal with the same area. As I told you, one keyword, what depth and length. You can say depth and length, how you will go. This is one way of looking at what I will read. This is another way of looking at what I will read to understand the broader perspective of my keyword. So not only this keyword, another keyword, another theory, another context. Like that, I need to look into different areas of my research. One more thing. You need to understand the difference between these different sources also. That's what I told you. Reading a textbook or discussing about a theory from a textbook is different from what is presented in the research article. And it is totally different from how it is described in a thesis or a dissertation. See, I will tell you, there is one mistake that everybody does, sir. For your PhD research, I'll tell you, for PhD research, you are only reading research articles. You're only reading research articles because you are told to read research articles only. But the mistake you are doing is research article is not the thesis or a dissertation. Why I'm telling that is, when somebody does a PhD research, they will publish 4 papers out of it. They will break it down into small pieces, each objective into 1 paper, and they publish it. And you read that 1 article and think that this is 1 PhD research. And you will bring that this author has done this, and this is what I am going to replicate, or similar thing I am going to do, and that is enough for PhD. Please understand the scope of a research paper. Research paper is not the PhD research. It may be an outcome of the PhD research, but it is not the PhD research entirely. So, if you want to understand what is the depth of a PhD research, read the theses. Read the theses. So, thesis, if you look at it's part of a broader work and it is very comprehensive. But if you look at research articles, are part of broader work, but it is very selective. Only 1 piece of information is presented in a research article. So don't completely get carried away by reading 1 research article. Instead, you can read the entire thesis so that it gives a broader picture, bigger picture.
So, sir, just
Sometimes-
one question, sir, connected to the thesis.
Yes,
Sir,
ma'am.
apart from Shodh Ganga, is there any other place we can get the thesis, sir? Because now the libraries are closed,
Mhm.
the physical library. So I was just struggling to find the thesis, sir.
Madam, I will tell you epistemologically. So don't mistake me. Epistemologically, if you are reading thesis from Shodh Ganga, please do the epistemological exercise. Then you will understand that it is not worth reading thesis from Shodh Ganga. If you apply the epistemology, I'm telling you, I'm not 100% blaming entire thing. I'm only telling you, use the epistemology, read the thesis from Shodh Ganga. You will understand what is the truth in it, what is the value in it, and what you can learn from it that will go wrong. See, my thesis is also there in Shodh Ganga only. But I am telling you, the quality of the thesis that you read from Shodh Ganga, if you try to benchmark that, then your research work will go very low. So as you asked, what are the other sources of PhD thesis? In our Christ library itself, we have subscribed for ProQuest e-thesis. ProQuest e-thesis, if you are from Christ University, because I cannot talk in terms of Christ University, because this particular group, we have mix of people from other places also. So for people specific to Christ University, I'm saying Christ University library has ProQuest e-thesis being subscribed. Others, you can find ProQuest e-thesis wherever it is. There is another source, EBSCO. Under EBSCO also you can find e-theses. Or even in Google search, Google Scholar search, you just type your concept plus e-thesis or e-dissertation, you will get the thesis. Entire PhD thesis you will get. You try to download it, start reading it, understand what is the level of knowledge that is generated at a PhD level. And don't get carried away by reading a small article and thinking that this is what PhD research is all about. That's a total misconception. We are doing a mistake by just reading research article. Research article is to the ontological exercise, understanding a particular concept, So you do lot of literature and then have a map about that concept. Therefore, multiple articles you will read, so that big picture will emerge from reading hundreds of literature. And methodology, specific methodology you will read. So each small aspects you learn from the research article and make a collective picture. But what is required for a PhD, you need to read it from the thesis only. Similarly, as I told you, comprehensive, but about one piece of information or one keyword, we will have a lot of annotated bibliography or literature review articles available. So you can read this for a collective information. Altogether, you will get and compressed information about one single keyword as an annotated bibliography or a review of literature paper. So that is a compressed one. So this course assignment and things, we don't use it at a PhD level research. But for if you, it's like an essay. A course assignment is like an essay. Okay. So these three things, what we read, you need to have a mix of all those things. So as I told you, how you will read from different areas. Again, you need to read from the different types of literature that is available. So this is one more thing. Okay. So now moving on to types of review techniques. How do we review? Different ways of reviewing. There are three broad techniques of doing a review. One is just reading, a traditional way of doing our review of literature. Randomly, we will download some papers. There is no order in that paper. So any paper, we download it from anywhere and we read it. There is no systematic way. We just read it. Maybe there is some categories within that. I will tell about that in a narrative or a traditional review of literature. We may categorize into different areas what we read. But the another method of review is called as a systematic review. What is systematic review? The paper that you select for doing a review is not an XYZ paper. You are finding those paper in a structured manner. I will tell you about that. A systematic review, you search for the paper in a particular way and systematically review that paper and come to a synthesis. Within that systematic review, there is another level of review of literature. We call it as meta-analysis. Meta-review and meta-analysis. What is that? So I will give you examples, then you will understand it. So first we will look at what is a systematic review. So systematic review, you can see here, you are searching for the articles. You are searching for the articles. There are different articles available. Thesis articles from different sources, it is available. From that, you are systematically selecting a kind of paper or from a source. For example, you can do a systematic review of a particular topic from only papers available from ProQuest alone or from EBSCO alone. Or you do select papers only from particular journal. So you will say, I'm going to look at the journals from a Journal of Management only. Select the articles from only that. So that is how you filter out. Then assess the quality of the studies. So you try to read all those papers available from that systematic source and you apply certain criteria to select them, some quality criteria. So I will omit the conceptual papers. I will omit the case studies. I will only take kind of other studies. So screening the article or selecting the quality of the article, then read and synthesize the information. Then do a conclusion. So this is what is called as a systematic review. So I'm not going in depth into the technique how to do that, because as I told you, the procedures are taught in different programs or different workshops. My focus is only to tell the philosophy of it. So here, all the information is coming from one particular source in a systematic way. It is coming. So it is kind of an epistemologically fixing for a particular type of research article and then coming out with the knowledge. What is meta-analysis? See, meta-analysis is mostly done in this medical field. They look at the result that you have got and that is published in different articles. For example, there is a regression analysis done on the same type of research. So there are 10 people who have published, for example, whether leadership impacts performance. 10 different authors have done the research in different places and they got some result. I am looking at the level of those numbers that is coming out in those researches. For example, what is the R-square value of the regression that is being found in different articles? I take that and that, then apply some statistics. So for example, you can see odds ratio is like a chi-square test. Okay. So there are some 22 papers. So somebody has done a research on maybe particular association between two variables. They have done odds ratio, and whatever odds value they have found from 22 articles, they are plotting it, maybe doing a statistics on this. That is called as a meta-analysis. So for medical purpose, for example, diabetes. So somebody has done a research on diabetes. They have presented some data in that. That data is taken from each of those papers and then analyzed. So meta-analysis is a kind of a very high level of scientific research process. Meta-analysis is mostly done in medical research. In social science, we don't much do it. In medical research, they do, because from different parts of the world about coronavirus, they have researched. They will come out with some efficacy of the medicine or efficacy of the vaccine. So all the publications are taken and the values from those publications are taken and analyzed. That is how medical they do. And meta-analysis is a statistical research. So as I told you, data from different papers are taken and statistically analyzed. And meta-analysis is not a review technique, it's a quantitative research. So meta-analysis is a review of literature, but it is a research on its own. It's a research on its own. Meta-analysis itself is a research.
Sir, is it used for predictions, sir?
See, it is only to strengthen those theories and strengthen those findings from different people who have found the same thing. You are collecting those information so that there is a kind of more truth coming out of it.
Okay, thank you, sir.
So that is the purpose of meta-analysis. So coming back to the traditional review. So traditional review is what you normally do. You take article, you will read, and you will comprehend on it, and then you try to understand or synthesize from it. But within the traditional also, we sometimes do it like this. That is chronologically. In engineering, we do a lot of chronological, because if it is kind of a mechanical or electronic or electrical, the order. So in 1960, what happened? 1970, what happened? 1990, what happened? So in science, technology, engineering, so we sometimes do review of literature in chronological way. If you look at a lot of papers available in IEEE, they will have a chronological review. Then thematic review. That is what we do in social science, where we do variable wise. variable-wise review. Then methodological review, that is categorizing the articles based on the methodology. So survey-based research, case study research. See, there are divisions like categorizing on geography. So Indian studies and foreign studies. That is the geography of literature review categorization. So these are different ways of doing the narrative review, but within that some categories we can do it. So this is what I told you about the quick review. Quick review. So in Google Scholar, you are aware of this. So each page, one will have a list of articles coming out, or list of search coming out. So I can sometimes search it to 100 list per page. So if there are 100 lists coming out in one page, you think of 10 pages, 10 into 100. If I go through all these pages, at least 1,000 papers or 1,000 headings I would have seen. See, sometimes I even go up to 100 O's. 100 O's. If I'm in 1 hour, I can do that. In 1 hour, I can do that. 100 O's I can go, and each page 100 articles I can see. Quickly browse through that. And what is that called as is? It is called as scoping and mapping. It's called as scoping and mapping. So we determine the length of the research, that is scope of the research, and we also map how this variable is related to other variables. Quickly we do. So this is one of the ontological exercise. One of the ontological exercise is called as scoping and mapping. So no need to read the entire paper. No need to read the entire paper. We quickly browse through, try to map it. I used to give this exercise in some of the PhD classes or in classes. I will ask students or scholars, take one keyword, go through some Google O's, maybe 10 O's you go through. You will have the keyword there. You will have another keyword along with that. When you search, you'll get a maybe title or something, heading will come. For example, I'm typing, for example, family business. Let my search be on a family business keyword. I'll take family business as a keyword. I'll go to Google Scholar, type family business, run the search. I will set it as 100 searches per page, so that if I go 10 O's, I would have gone through 1,000 titles. By going through 1,000 titles, everywhere you will see family business highlighted. It means that all the search that has been done, family business is part of it. But there is another keyword along with that. Another keyword along with that I will capture and start noting it down. So that I will get a list of 100 or 200 words, keywords that is associated with my keyword. Family business, I will get sustainability, I will get leadership, I will get entrepreneurship, I will get succession planning, I will get kind of generations, I will get success, like that. There is a second list of keywords that is coming out. I can take all those things and plot it together. I can plot it together. I will get a map. I'll get a map and I will get a scope. What is the extent of the research on this particular keyword? I'll get the extent. This is quick review, so that you can have a map of your idea of your concept. So this quick review with thousands of articles, you do quickly. You try to scope the paper. What is there? What are the areas that is being covered? And also you try to put them into a map. So this is how the confidence of the truth of the paper will come out. You can see confidence, or I'll call it as a truth. Okay, so high level of truth or confidence about the knowledge that I am learning, a low level of knowledge or confidence or truth from that. Narrative review, quick and scoping review, rapid evidence assessment. So quickly go through some numbers or values or particular thing. Then full systematic review that has more confidence or more truth or more precise information in it. This is how we can do review of literature at different levels and pull out the different levels of truth from it. So then moving on to the tools used for review of literature. So we have around 20 more slides and I think we have 10 minutes more. So we'll try to push. So tools for review of literature, I think many of you would have using it or you know. So I will just go through that. Many of you know using an Excel sheet. So you will have author name, year, title, and keywords used. What is the objective? What is the conclusion? All these things are here. So sometimes you will go on extending this particular Excel. There is no standard. Okay, each one of you can create whatever columns you want, whatever information you want to bring and categorize it, you can create it. So what I will do is I will have author name, year, then the journal name, the volume, issue name, page number in all one together. Then I will say, what is the methodology? Is it a survey? Is it a case study? Or what is it? Then I will have variables. What is that variable that is being used? Then I will have samples. So what is a sample? What is the number of samples? Then I will have another column saying what is the statistical tool, what they have used. Then I may have maybe a column for what is the findings, major findings. Like that I can divide. So depending on whether you are doing an ontological exercise, depending on whether you are doing an epistemological exercise, whether you are doing a review for the style and the type of article, you can frame your own Excel sheet columns. So sometimes I will have both the ontological information, that is, what is the independent variable, what is the dependent variable, what is the mediating variable, what is the moderating variable. Like that, I will elaborate on the ontological part of the review of literature, then I will make an Excel sheet out of it. If I want epistemological exercise, I will have another Excel sheet where I will be specific on to the methodology. So whether it is a survey research, is it a questionnaire based, is it interview based, how many samples were selected? So is it 100 samples, is it 1000 samples? Based on that, I will be able to understand the epistemology of that particular paper. So I can have Excel sheets depending on what is the type of exercise I am doing. So now hope you will understand. You don't ask for any standard Excel sheets. You prepare your own Excel sheet depending on what is the philosophy of it. Then comes this mapping. The lot of mapping we were speaking about. There are a lot of softwares available, or you can create your own map on a chart paper, or you can use mind mapping softwares. Most of the mind mapping softwares are there so that you can map your literature review. So for my scholars, I advise them to come out with a map of their review of literature. I don't want Excel. I want a map of the literature review. Then comes our old method. We call it as an index card method. Review of literature, you write in each information in one card with all information, you store it, index card method. It's an old method. It's a very old method. Nowadays, we are having a lot of softwares to do that. Most of you would know this software, Mendeley. Mendeley is a bibliography software where you can have your articles, you can tag them, you can underline them, you can connect them, you can have an extract of them, you can have all those information plotted to that. All those things you can do using a software like a Mendeley. As I told you, our traditional method Even today, I advise having a printout, binding it. Okay. So concept-wise literatures, I used to download, print it, bind it. So for one variable, one binding, one book. Like that, I'll have, for methodology, I'll have another book. Like that, I have a huge collection of literatures bound into different volumes of books, so that I have books of my own, books which I myself made it by collating research articles. That is there. That's a best practice, printing and binding. Many of the recent researchers, they are not doing because they say PDF file, computer, laptop. But when I ask for the literature, it doesn't come out. So it is there somewhere in some folder. You do not track it. You do not know where you have stored your information. Very difficult. Or at least from Mendeley like software, you will be able to at least search. That also they are not using. So another method is, as I told you, printing out and reading it. The analysis or the review of literature, the purpose of it will come only when you are able to mark it and make note of it, not just giving a reading, not reading and leaving it. You need to underline something, you need to highlight something, you need to make a note of it. That is what is going to help your synthesis. Otherwise, having a PDF will never help you a review of literature. You will never know where it is coming from. So using highlighters, using sticky notes, See, sticky notes can be used in different ways. You can write notes into your sticky notes, or you can use sticky notes for indexing or marking. Different ways. You can mark one keyword into your sticky note and make a map out of it. So sticky note, you can use it in 3 different ways here, which I have explained. Taking notes, marking it, or making map out of it. So what I did, I spent a lot of time, almost 6 months, working on how to use sticky note for research, and made a conference paper and a publication. So if you are interested, you can go to this particular website, worldofresearch.com, and find out my blog, or go to my publication. You will find this paper, using sticky notes for research. There is a conference paper which I have written, and there is a PPT, very illustrative PPT is there, which you can go through, which speaks about how to use sticky note for research. That's an interesting piece of work I have done, which I am the extract which I am showing it in these 3 slides, using highlighters, using sticky notes for taking notes, using sticky notes for marking, using sticky notes for mapping. So that, but this slide is still more elaborate. You can find out from that. Okay. So now coming to the last part, writing the review of literature. So all these previous slides, we have seen different sources, different ways of reviewing, different ways of using the tools and techniques. Finally, coming to writing, how do I put it across into my paper or a thesis? See, there is always a structure in writing. So from general to narrow. So you need to start with a general idea, then go slowly deep into that. That is one style of writing. Then summarizing and synthesizing. So some people just stop with summarizing. They don't synthesize. Many of the review of literature chapters which we are seeing is just a summary. Summary doesn't make a PhD level of review of literature. That should be synthesis of it. You need to learn the art of synthesizing. That's a different story. I'm not going deep into it. Don't just summarize, synthesize. Okay. So summary is just reporting. You don't have a critical comment, or you don't come out with extract and essence of it. Does not contain your opinion. You don't compare or contrast. So that's a summary. Don't work on summary-based review of literature. That's not required at a higher level of research. So synthesis, how do you do the synthesis? Read the articles, extract the information, then analyze those information, look at patterns and insights from it, then present it, write an essay out of it. That is what synthesis is. It's very difficult, it's very time consuming, but that is what will give you the story. That is what will tell the kind of background of your research that is there. So again, in writing, there are different ways of writing your research. Chronological way. So year-wise, you can present it. Methodological approach, as I told you, methodology-wise, you will present it. Theoretical approach. So each theory you will take and present. Thematic approach, each concept you will take and write it. So the entire chapter is divided into these ways. So these are different ways of arranging your literature. Then coming to the 5 C's of literature review. So citing it. Literature review means we are collecting information or knowledge from some other source. You need to cite. So we are having another session, an elaborate session on referencing and citing, what is the importance of it. But into the literature review, you need to have comparison, contrasting, criticizing, and connecting. This is what we spoke about in the entire ontology. That is how you compare, contrast, critic, and connect. This is the ontological exercise. So coming to citation, there are different citation styles. So just to tell you that citation is an important part of literature. I'm not going elaborate into it. It's about different citation styles are there. And finally, we complete today's session.